Reddit, what is your worst experience of waking up after a one-night stand? I was studying abroad for a semester in Brazil and the university had one night a week where their students would take the exchange students out. Usually it would be a club or bar, and sometimes just drinking on the beach. This night we were at a club, and for some reason I indulged myself a lot more than usual. My first blackout. I woke up the next morning in a strange room, strange bed, with a cute Brazilian girl beside me. She wakes up, and I quickly realize she didn't speak any English. This was only a couple weeks in, so my Portuguese was nil to none, to be honest. My wallet was missing. My shirt was ripped. She wanted to go another round that morning, which I did, so I could at least remember it this time. Then I realized I was in an area of this city that isn't exactly the safest. Had to break out her computer and use Google Translate to tell her to call me a cab, and then have her loan me money to get back to my dorm. Oh, and replacing credit and debit cards overseas is a breeze, let me tell you. Moral of the story, doesn't matter, had sex. Woke up with no memory of each other. Then she began screaming about being late to her grandma's funeral. Dropped her off in a tiny dress, not wearing shoes, still drunk as frick in front of her entire extended family. I woke up to his crazy female roommate vacuuming the hallway outside of his room for over an hour, banging the vacuum into his door over and over again. I guess she was trying to wake us up so I would leave, but we ended up just waking up and having sex while she was vacuuming. She told me to get up because she had to babysit her granddaughter. First I thought she was joking, she was not. She told me I could sleep in as she left for work early, just to lock the door on my way out. Her estranged husband decided to pop over, notices me in the bed, naked, gets pissed off, rants about how she's a terrible person, and OBTW did she mention she was married and has a kid. I start get dressed as I'm putting my shoes on. Husband picks up TV/VCR combo and is about to leave. I say, don't steal her TV, she's going to think I did it. He did not seem to care. Was at a local spot a few years back, met this girl who was pretty hot, according to 10 of my closest cocktails. Anyways, chill for a bit, head to her house, smack a taz and fall asleep. I woke up and noticed a book bag, etc, school books. Ask her what she's studying, and she tells me she goes to the local HS. I'm a little inside and leave. I ran into her a few weeks later, and it turns out she was freaking with me cause she needed me out of the house before her roommates got home. Not me but my flatmate. He struck gold whilst suitably plastered. He woke up the next day, pleased with himself as he realized he was not alone. Still suitably enamored, he offered to cook her breakfast, tackling the short walk to the shop for bacon and eggs by himself. Alas, all was not well, and after 2 hours of knocking on doors he realized he had totally forgotten where she lived. He returned home to me and our stinking flat where he prepared breakfast for us both with a heavy heart and the bluest of balls. Update, I just remembered another twist to this story. He phoned me while he was walking to the shop and told me that he couldn't remember whether her name was, say, Ida, Emma or Anna, then phoned me again in a panic sometime later whilst looking for her house asking what 2 names he told me she might be called, having forgotten both of those as well. I met a girl at a show that my band was playing at, went back to her place, had sex 3 or 4 times that night, then fell asleep at probably 7 AM. I wake up at about 9 AM, completely disoriented, and hear her boyfriend kissing her saying MMM. Looked like you guys had fun last night. He was apparently watching us the entire time. I didn't even know she had a roommate. Very first time I had sex was very drunk. Woke up and couldn't remember if I wore a condom, and don't remember finishing. She couldn't remember where I finished either, so we assumed the worst, that I dumped inside her. 3 weeks later she told me she was late. That was the longest month of my life. Edit, she wasn't pregnant. We ended up married and have a son now. We slept in her bed, which was a cot in the kitchen. Clue number 1 to stop drinking so heavily. She woke me up to introduce me to her 3 children. Clue number 2. They were sleeping in the same bed because the youngest had shat the other bed during the night. Clue number 3. The same bed she told me to hide in when there was a knock on the door at 8 AM. Turned out to be her sister, but still. Clue number 4. She then introduced me to her pet lovebirds. She informed me she would be naming one of them after me. Clue number 5. As I'm desperately trying to get the frick out of there, she physically removes a stuffed animal from her youngest's arms to give to me to remember her by. Clue number Jesus freaking Christ. I did not take the toy from the now crying toddler. If I hadn't needed a drink so badly after that debacle, I might have given sobriety a shot. Edit. Thanks for the golden appreciation. I actually left a couple things out of the story because I thought it made it sound too unbelievable. Might as well throw them in. At one point, the eldest child gave me a picture he drew. It was sincerely heartwarming and made me feel real conflicted. Second, we shared a ride back to her place with one of her friends. During the cab ride, I discovered that her friend's son and I went to the same university. Third, this happened on Christmas Eve. Somehow, in my drunken stupor the night before, I had given her my real cell phone number. After I left, she called me 8 times that day, before noon. I didn't answer. Each message got progressively more aggressive. That's pretty much the complete story. Thanks for reading. She was actually really cute, and she got up to leave, so I just said lock the door behind you because super hungover. So finally I make my way out of bed, and she had taken all of the food in my house along with my blender. Like, how the frick did you pull this off? I wake up to him saying crap. My dad wasn't supposed to come home so early. I had just thought he lived with roommates. He tells me to jump in his closet. I'm fully nude and my clothes are in the living room. I start to argue, but he insists, and so I get in there and hear them having small talk for almost an hour. I realize I really have to pee, and they just drag on, and I'm dancing around. And then the guy I slept with left for work, and I can hear the dad making breakfast and just settling in. I panic. How am I gonna get my clothes? Frick my clothes. I lose his clothes. So I take the stuff in the closet. All I found were shirts. I freaking ran for my life full speed through the house with sex hair and a long shirt to my car. The dad yelled, "What the damn hell, who are you?" Nothing says good morning like a toddler tugging on the blankets saying, "Mommy, who is that in your bed?"
I have a similar story, except the kid ran into the bed around 3 AM because he had a bad dream. Chick was on the wall side of the bed, so I had to pick him up and carry him across me to her. The look on the kid was priceless. The next morning, the chick/mother decided to ride me while her kid was sleeping next to us. Had to leave right after, and that was the end of that.
The son of a bitch stayed for 2 days after, and then actually called me back, and kept being there for 3 years. Asked me to marry him a few months ago, the dick. Hooked up with this super hot chick at a festival she lived near, so she insisted we go back to her house. After an entire morning and almost afternoon of loud crazy sex for hours, I decided to go downstairs for a drink. Turns out she didn't live alone like she said, but she lived with her 2 brothers, both of whom looked like they had been on the juice. I casually had to continue my stroll to the fridge shirtless, then introduce myself. They both jump off the couch and try staunch me, asking who I was and where I was from. She then came downstairs and introduced me, and then asked them to drive me home. Being the older sister, they had to say yes. Being super far from home, I had to oblige to the offer. I got a lift with the brothers of the girl I had just fricked the life out of all night. Dominant status asserted. She peed my whole bed with me in it. Edit 1. She slept in the pee bed without waking up. I moved to the carpet after the golden shower occurred. It was awkward the next day, before she was given the boot out the door. An ex-girlfriend from my early 20s did this to me at least 3 times a week. But she was a crazy chick and did all type of sexually awesome stuff. So like any horn dude, I'd clean up her pee with a rug shampooer and we'd bang on my side. Always made sure she slept on the pussy side. I always wondered what happened to her. Last I heard, she got thrown out of a Giants game for screaming curse words and being too drunk. Then threw up on herself on Coltrane and proceeded to get naked. Oh well, she was pretty fun minus the crazy stuff and alcoholism. Hooked up with a cougar from the bar at which I worked. Woke up the next morning to sounds coming from the kitchen. She says it's her son. For some reason she also mentions he's starting a new job that day. I say a brief hello to him as I leave the house. Guess who showed up at my work for training later that day? Edit. Since I keep getting asked. Lol. It was the son that showed up. I had to train him. Edit 2. I think this is now my highest rated comment, and of course it's about freaking a future coworker's mother. She left her wallet open. She was not 18. I ran. This happened to me. She asked me to buy her cigarettes the next morning. I was like, haha, why can't you just go buy them, you're so crap. Edit. I go to lunch and this. So yeah, the story continues. I called her out and she said she was only 17. Still could be a lie cause I asked to see her license after she asked me to buy her cigs, but she wouldn't show me. I mean, she did have a car, so I know she was at least 16. Anyways, I told her what she did, was so fricked up and not to contact me again. Well, later that night, like I knew she would, she calls and tells me she needs to see me. I'm like, no, this is not okay. She said she was going to sneak out of her parents' house and just show up if I didn't agree. So now I'm freaking out and thinking this girl is going to start stalking me. So I decide to let her come over so I can tell her in person that this is not going to turn into a thing. I asked her what time she was going to come over so I could be ready, and she said IDK like 3:50 am. Edit 2. Just an FYI, this story is 100% true with the SIG requests and the sneaking out part. Some of the responses I'm getting make me think people now assume it's made up. Well, I woke up next to someone and immediately regretted the decision I had made drunkenly the night before. So I get up slowly to be as quiet as I could and started putting on my clothes, ready to leave. I got halfway down the staircase before I realized I was trying to sneak out of my own house. Frick. Edit. No, I did not sleep with my sister. What's wrong with you guys? It was some random girl I met whilst at uni, and she had a very bad haircut and a pretty bad tooth to gum ratio, which gave rise to the nickname Lawnmower Donkey. Ah, those were simper times. First of all, I don't remember any of this. After a Labor Day party this year, I was walking back to my apartment and watching all the Snapchats my friends sent me. My one friend had Snapchatted me freaking this girl on a couch in the middle of the party. She was insanely hot, so that was fine, but it was my worst experience because I don't remember having sex with the hottest girl I have ever fricked. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like for more future content.